Today we want to try and beat every single Pokemon champion, and there is a lot of them with only ghost types. That's right, it's nearly Halloween, and what better time to do an all ghost challenge. I will try to use as many ghost type Pokemon as I can, and we're going to get to use some really cool Pokemon like Gengar, Ceruledge, and one of my favourites, Rotom. Although some games may be a little challenging when there's only one ghost introduced. I'm looking at you, Generation 2. If we also add some rules like the ones on the screen, and I'll leave a copy in the description to make it a little bit more challenging for ourselves. As a side note, I won't be playing remakes of the same champion, so if we play Red, we won't play Fire Red. Let's get started. First up is Pokemon Yellow, and we have the champion for this game, Blue. We only have access to one ghost type, but we're going to use the 3 stages, so that's Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar. So his lead is Sandslash, and we outspeed and hit a Hypnosis to put him to sleep with our Ghastly. We then hit a Mega Drain, doing solid damage to him as he stays asleep, so one more Mega Drain and Ghastly picks up its first knockout. Alakazam comes out next, and we outspeed again and go for another Hypnosis, putting him to sleep. Can you see my strategy for this fight so far? We hit a Thunderbolt for a great amount of damage as he wakes up. Luckily in Gen 1 they don't attack the same move they wake up, so we put him back to sleep and fire off another Thunderbolt, bringing him low. Then Ghastly picks up its second knockout with a final attack. This brings out Executor next. I go for a Psychic, but we're not doing much to it at all, as it decides to repay the favour and put our Ghastly to sleep. We then swap into Gengar on the incoming Hypnosis, and it fails thankfully. Gengar can then freeze its fist and deliver an Ice Punch straight to Executor's face, nearly taking him out, as he then puts Gengar to sleep. He just goes for Barrage now over and over, as we stay asleep for a pretty long time. Eventually we wake up though and deal with the annoying Executor with an Ice Punch. Now it's Cloyster, and we now electrify our fist and critical hit a Thunder Punch for the one-hit knockout. Blue's 5th Pokemon is Ninetales, and I decide to go for a Hyper Beam. We don't do enough damage for the knockout, and he goes for a Confuse Ray. First game, confused. Typical for me. So I decide to swap into Haunter, as he goes for another Confuse Ray. I give up. Luckily, we break through the confusion and hit a Psychic that takes out the Nine-Tailed Fox. His last Pokemon now is Jolteon. We snap out of confusion and a Psychic does nearly half to him, as he then paralyzes us with a Thunder Wave. The next turn he hits a Thunder, but we have good special and it takes us to around half as we connect another Psychic. Jolteon thunders again, putting us on only 41 HP as we get fully paralyzed. That's not good, we now have to switch. So we go back into our Gengar and Jolteon paralyzes us now. He hits a Thunder, doing about 25% to us as we get paralyzed. He thunders again and we finally break through and hit a Fire Punch to defeat Blue. Honestly, this could have went bad fast. Ghastly was asleep, Haunter was low, and Gengar was low. One more paralyze and we could have lost this. Let's move on to Generation 2. Lance is the champion in Generation 2, and we can only add one Pokemon, yes one, to our team, and that's Mischievous. So his lead is Gyarados, and we lead off with Haunter. We have Thunderbolt and Outspeed, so we make very short work of Gyarados, and it falls to a single attack. The first of his 3 Dragonites are out now. I opt to stay in and Thunderbolt, and we do what looks like about half, as he Thunder Waves us. The next turn he misses his Thunder, and we get paralyzed. He misses a Thunder again, and we get fully paralyzed again. I can see how this run's going to go. Finally, on turn 3, he connects a Thunder, which must have shocked Haunter into action, as we connect a Thunderbolt to take down the first of the 3 Dragonites. Dragonite 2 is out, and he misses a Blizzard as we Thunderbolt him to half. This time, he connects his Blizzard, and it critical hits, ending Haunter and our first death of the run. Fantastic. RNG is not in my favour so far. Now we go into Mischievous. We have Hidden Power, and we outspeed. We make quick work and take revenge for Haunter, taking down Dragonite number 2. This now brings out Aerodactyl. I see no reason to switch, and he outspeeds and rock slides us and flinches us, because of course he does. He rock slides us again, and we connect to Hidden Power that does a hefty amount of damage to him. Aerodactyl rock slides one more time, bringing Mischievous to only 33 HP as we get the final blow. We go into Ghastly on Charizard, and we outspeed and put him to sleep with Hypnosis. Now we fire off his Psychic, doing more than I expected Ghastly would do, to be honest. Charizard doesn't wake up, so one more Psychic and down he falls. This leaves his last Pokemon, and perhaps the scariest, the level 50 Dragonite. We switch into Gengar now, and we outspeed, so one Ice Punch demolishes him and gives us the victory over Lance. We lost Haunter unfortunately, but now our available Pokemon really starts opening up, so let's move on to Generation 3. In Pokemon Ruby, Steven is the champion. His team is pretty strong, but we now have a completely new team basically. So his lead is the usual Skarmory, and we lead off with Gengar. We hit a Thunderbolt for the easy one-hit knockout on this Steel Bird. No spikes for you this time. Claydol comes out, and I don't want to eat a Psychic move, so we swap into Dusclops as he just sets up a Reflect. Claydol outspeeds us and hits an Earthquake, but it's not doing too much damage, and we burn him with Will-O-Wisp, reducing his attack stat. He Earthquakes us again, but it's doing nothing as our Shadow Punch critical hits, taking him all the way to the red. After burn damage, he falls, giving us a quick Claydol knockout. Cradily is next and does the usual Confuse Ray as we hit ourselves in confusion. He Giga Drains us next turn and we snap out of our confusion, and we burn Cradily too. Reflect wears off now and we get Giga Drained again, taking us low as our Shadow Punch tickles Cradily. We've got to switch now, so we go into Banette, and Giga Drain doesn't do too much to us thankfully. Now we Hidden Power and do a solid chunk to Cradily's HP as he confuses Banette. Steven now full restores him thanks to the burn damage, and we Icy Wind, reducing his speed. We snap out of confusion and Icy Wind again as Cradily throws rocks at us. One more Icy Wind and we just miss out on the knockout as Cradily confuses us once more. How many times have I been confused this run? Steven full restores him and our Hidden Power is doing nearly half. The next turn we hit ourselves and Cradily throws rocks at us, bringing us to the red. So we swap into Mischievous as he goes for a Sludge Bomb, but it does little damage. We outspeed and Hidden Power still doesn't KO, and he gets to throw more rocks at us. We finally take down Cradily after a very annoying fight. Aggron is the next Pokemon and we can't really hurt it, so I swap into Sableye. His Dragon Claw does nothing to us though. We know Water Pulse and we do so much damage to him as his Earthquake brings us to 65 HP. We then can finish off Aggron with one more water attack. Now is Armaldo. It's weak to water and Sableye is still reasonably tanky, so I stay in and go for another attack. We do over half and get the confusion as he hits himself. Finally some luck our way. This means Sableye picks up another knockout and takes down Armaldo. His final Pokemon is his ace, Metagross. We have the absolute perfect check for this in Shed Ninja. We have 1 HP but the ability Wonder Guard, so any non-super effective hit won't attack us. We Swords Dance to boost our attack and Leech Life, but it's a little bit of damage. So now I go for a super effective Dig to bring him to the red. One more Dig underground and our 1 HP Bug Ghost takes down Metagross and beating Steven. That was actually a pretty annoying fight this time, but we got through it deathless. Let's move on to our next generation 3 champion. Wallace is our next champion for Emerald. His speciality is water types, but I think our Ghost can deal with him. So his usual lead is the scary Wailord, and we lead off with our Gengar. One super effective Thunderbolt obliterates Wailord, and we get the one-hit knockout. Whiscash is Wallace's second Pokemon. It's 4 times weak to grass, and we have Giga Drain. We outspeed and we land a critical hit, giving Gengar a second knockout. Tentacruel is third, and we hit a Psychic doing over half as Tentacruel misses a Hydro Pump. This means one more Psychic and Gengar has already demolished half of Wallace's team without taking any damage. Ludicolo is next, but we can't really hurt it. I swap into Shed Ninja now as he sets up a double team. Our Leech Life looks as if it's doing just over 25% as he keeps setting up double teams. He gets to a +3 evasion and we take him to a Slither as he just goes for a Leech Seed, which I completely forgot about and thankfully misses, otherwise we would have lost Shedinja. We miss our next Leech Life on the full restore, so I swap into Dusclops. He sets up another double team on the switch. Ludicolo now serves us for good damage and we critical hit a Shadow Punch. It's always going to connect Shadow Punch. Ludicolo now critical hits us with a Surf, bringing us to only 14 HP as we Shadow Punch again. This time it does nothing to him, so we swap back into Shedinja on the Surf. Now I go for a Leech Life, we thankfully connect, and that ends Ludicolo's reign of terror on my team. A few. Gyarados is out and it can't touch Shedinja at all, so we set up Swords Dances to max attack as Gyarados just keeps on Dragon Dancing. Now we can just Metal Claw and critical hit and take down Gyarados. This leaves just Milotic next. We're at max attack, so I stay in and go for a Metal Claw, but this thing has Toxic and she connects, so in the last act Shedinja does close to half and falls to Toxic damage. That was very silly of me. I got too ahead of myself with all my attack boosts. We then send out Gengar to avenge Shedinja and finish off Milotic with a Thunderbolt, beating Generation 3 and suffering our second death of the run onto Generation 4. But before we do that, I'd like to thank today's sponsor for the video. It's me. A massive 97% of you are not subscribed yet. So if you like what you see, consider subscribing. Back to the video. Cynthia is the champion of Sinnoh and she has a strong team with a lot of coverage. We have a few new faces now to help us with this fight. You may be wondering why the death count has gone down to 1 and Wallace doesn't have a cross on his face. That's because I filmed these back to front, unfortunately. So let's just imagine that we've already beat Wallace and their death count's at 2. Thank you. So she leads off with Spirit Tomb and we lead off with our Spirit Tomb. We finally get a bit of luck and we flinch her on 2 Dark Pulses, bringing her down to the red. Cynthia full restores, but we are doing massive damage. We take Spirit Tomb back down to the red before he finally connects one move, and we pick up the knockout, showing our superior dominance as the better Pokemon. Out next is Roserade. She outspeeds us and energy balls as we set up a Calm Mind. We take another energy ball to 30 HP as our Shadow Pull does just over half, but we have to switch now. So I go into Gengar on the incoming grass move. Gengar's faster and finishes off Roserade with a Shadow Ball. Milotic comes out and we hit first with the Giga Drain, doing nearly half as she just sets up her Aqua Ring. We Giga Drain again, nearly knocking her out as she hits a Miracle, taking Gengar to only 8 HP. That was insanely close. The next turn we can take her out with a Thunderbolt. Togekiss is next and we have to swap, so we go into Drift Blim. A Psychic doesn't do too much to us thankfully on the switch. We outspeed the next turn and Thunderbolt for close to half as her Air Slash does massive damage to us. I stay in and play it super risky here and stay in and attack again, but we only put her on a sliver as her Air Slash puts us on only 5 HP. Why am I doing this? Cynthia will heal now, so we get off a final attack, bringing her to half. We have to switch now, so we go into Rotom on the Psychic. He takes nearly half from it. We outspeed and get off his Stab Thunderbolt, and that knocks out Togekiss. Lucario is next, and I stay in and Will-O-Wisp, but it's actually a special attacker, and his Dragon Pulse nearly takes down Rotom. We now swap again into Sableye as he went for a Psychic, which we resist, so it does nothing to us. He hits a Dragon Pulse for nearly half as our Psychic isn't doing too much to him. He attacks us again, putting us on only 50 HP as we take down Lucario with a Psychic. This just leaves her ace Garchomp left. We're on 50 HP and our whole team is on the brink of death, except from Dusknoir, so we swap into him. On the swap, a Dragon Rush takes us to nearly half. He Earthquakes, putting us on only 47 HP as we burn him, reducing his attack massively. Now I need a switch to get into somebody, but our team is destroyed. Something is probably going to die now. So I swap into Drift Blim and he Earthquakes. I'm looking at our options and we have 0. So I stay in and go for an Icy Wind. We actually outspeed and critical hit, so we take down Garchomp. That was perfect. We could not have asked for a better time to get a critical hit. Otherwise, Garchomp probably would have demolished our whole team. This is being close now on a few occasions. Let's move on to Generation 5. First up in Generation 5 is Alder, and like Cynthia, he has a wide range of Pokemon with good type variety, and we once again have a lot more new Ghost faces on our team. We lead off with Chandelure into Aselgor. We take a super weak Energy Ball before we fire off a Flamethrower, completely destroying him in one move. Next up is Bufalon, and the Earth or Rock move is definitely coming, so I swap into Jellicent, and he does in fact Earthquake. It critical hits and does over half to me. We actually outspeed and recover, and we tank a normal move reasonably well. We Scald him and we dodge a Stone Edge. We Scald him again and we still don't get a burn as his Stone Edge is doing great damage. One more Scald from our Jellyfish and down he goes. Druddigon is third and we recover to see what he wants to do, but he has Night Slash. It does great damage to us as well. We stay in and go for a Will-O-Wisp to cripple this thing, but we miss and he outrages, taking down our Jellicent and activating our Curse Body ability, disabling his outrage. That sucks. Jellicent is one of the only water ghost types we have had. So we go into Cofragigus, I probably said that wrong, and he's confused thanks to outrage being disabled, and now we burn him. He hits a Night Slash, but it does nothing, and we give him the ability Mummy, as our Shadow Ball does quite a lot to him. His payback tickles us, and Cofragigus takes out Druddigon with a Shadow Ball. Volcarona is out, and it's a threat. It immediately starts setting up with a Quiver Dance, as our Shadow Ball does nothing to him. I have to switch. I go into Chandelure on thankfully an Overheat, as it still does a tremendous amount of damage, but reduces his special attack now by 2 stages. We have to swap now again, so I go into Golurk. He sets up another Quiver Dance Dance and then goes for yet another Quiver Dance as we connect an Earthquake that deals with this threat. Now is Vanillix. We have a fire move that makes short work of him too, and we get the knockout in just one move. This leaves his last Pokemon Escavalier, but it's 4 times weak to fire and 1 fire punch takes him down. And I've just realised my Golurk wasn't level 75, it was 85. That is my mistake. I think the outcome of the battle would have been the same as Golurk's fire punch would take out his last 2 Pokemon anyway. But I hold my hands up, I did an upsie. Let me know how mad you are at me in the comments. I heard from someone they're really good for these. Iris is our next champion and the majority of her Pokemon are dragons. With Jellicent's demise, we can now add a much needed ice type to our team in Frostlass. So she leads off with Hydreigon and our leader is not Frostlass but Cofragigas. We Will-O-Wisp and he hits a Dragon Pulse for nearly half. We have to swap now and Frostlass is the Pokemon we needed in the first place. We take a Dragon Pulse to 100 HP and now we can start our carnage. 1 Ice Beam finishes off Hydreigon pretty easily. The next Pokemon, Druddigon, takes an Ice Beam to the face and falls over as well. Archeops is out and an Ice Beam hit is enough to take care of the prehistoric bird. Aggron is out and that's where the carnage stops. We swap to Golurk on the incoming attack as it just goes for a Rock Slide that does nothing. Golurk is now the right level but is still a monster and we take Aggron down in just 1 Earthquake. Lapras is next and we have an electric move so I stay in and Thunder Punch. Lapras Ice Beam nearly KOs Golurk and takes us down to 20 HP. Thankfully, Lapras isn't low enough for Iris to heal, so 1 more Thunder Punch and bye bye Lapras. This leaves only Haxorus left, her ace. We have to swap now, so we go into Dusknoir as he hits an Earthquake. He Earthquakes again and we Will-O-Wisp, burning him. We stay in and he Dragon Dances as our Shadow Punch does very little. We survive another Earthquake and Shadow Punch again, bringing him low, and this is where I make a misplay. Iris full restores, removing the burn, and now that makes Haxorus a scary threat with full HP, as our Shadow Punch does nothing to him. Not much on our team wants to take a hit now, so I go into Mismagius as his Earthquake takes us to 43 HP. I now have 0 switch-ins to a powered up Haxorus, so Mismagius falls to a Dual Chop. I go into Cofragigas and pray we can live a hit. He Dragon Dances again and we miss a Will-O-Wisp. This could be game over for us. He Dragon Dances again and we finally land our Will-O-Wisp, reducing his attack stat and starting to get chip damage. An Earthquake now doesn't KO us and a Shadow Ball brings him to the red. He's going to fall to burn damage here, so I swap into Frostlass to take the incoming hit and an Earthquake puts us on only 7 HP. I have no idea how we won that fight and came out with only 1 death. 1 slight misplay and it was nearly super punishing. Let's move on to the 3DS games now and Generation 6. Generation 6, we have Diantha as the champion. We have some new faces in Trevenant, Galgeist and Aegislash, and I think we can deal with her team. Her lead is Hawlucha and we lead off with Frostlass. Hawlucha sets up a Sword Stance, turn 1 raising his attack as we just negate that immediately by taking him down with an Ice Beam. This brings out the T-Rex Tyrantrum. For some reason I don't trust myself to 1-hit KO it, so I swap into Aegislash as his Head Smash does a small amount of damage to us. I stay in and go for a Sacred Sword, but we actually outspeed. That's just fantastic. Our Sacred Sword doesn't quite KO him as a Crunch while we are not in our shield form takes out Aegislash. I don't know how we outsped it. I have 0 EVs in speed. I can only think I have max IVs in speed as Tyrantrum's base speed is only 71. RIP Aegislash. Now we go into Galgeist and I know Diantha will heal, so I go for a Will-O-Wisp to reduce his attack stat. It wouldn't be Halloween if we didn't trick or treat, so that's exactly what we do. This adds a Ghost type into Tyrantrum now. He hits a Crunch and gets a defense drop. We then Shadow Sneak, which is now super effective for an okay amount, as another Crunch brings us to 69 HP. We then go for a Synthesis as he goes for a Head Smash, which still does a lot of damage even with the defense drop, and his great attack stat, but 1 more Shadow Sneak ends the T-Rex. Now is Aurorus. It usually goes for a Light Screen or a Reflect, so we Synthesis, and it goes for Blizzard this time, and puts us on only 24 HP. I know these fights really well by this point, but they are still pretty hard to predict the moves. We now swap into Frostlass on the incoming Blizzard, and we dodge it. We fire off a Shadow Ball, as it doesn't do too much to him at all, and then he sets up his Light Screen. He hits a Thunder and paralyzes us. He then misses the Thunder, and we get Parahaxed. We finally connect and are whittling it down as Diantha full restores. We've now got to switch, as we will lose this matchup, so we go into Trevenant, as he resets up up his light screen. Trevenant's Horn Leech is way too powerful for the Ice Dinosaur, and a critical hit makes quick work of him now. This now brings out Gudra, and a misplay from me because it has Sap Sipper, so we boost its attack. I just said I know these fights, and I did that. So we boost his attack, and then we take a Fire Blast to the face. It's now time to swap again, and we go into Dusknoir. We take a Fire Blast reasonably well, but then we get burned, so now our attack is reduced. We get hit by a Dragon Pulse, and our Ice Punch now does barely nothing to him, and we're taking burn damage. I don't really have an answer for Gudra, and our team is starting to get quickly battered by Diantha, so I let Dusknoir go down here as it's useless for this fight now, and that takes our death count up a lot higher. Our only healthy Pokemon left is Golurk. We go into it and outspeed and hit a Shadow Punch as he hits some muddy water. Thankfully doesn't get the accuracy drop. So another Shadow Punch and we deal with Gudra. Galgeist is next. Our Shadow Punch takes him all the way to the red and she goes for a Phantom Force. All our team is weak to this move and we still have a Mega Gardevoir to deal with. The only Pokemon that probably can deal with that is Golurk, so we have to switch. Something is about to die and I choose to sacrifice my lowest HP Pokemon, Galgeist. I think it's only fitting, and for the first time in a lot of runs, Galgeist takes out one of my Pokemon. Now we go back into Golurk, and Diantha full restores. Our Shadow Punch brings her all the way back down though, so we finish her off after she finally got some revenge on us. Gardevoir comes out and Mega Evolves. Thankfully the stat changes don't happen until turn 2, so we outspeed and a super effective Shadow Punch ends Diantha in what was a pretty difficult battle. Let's move on to Alola. How is the person we fight to become champion here, and as always I'm worried about Incineroar and his Z move. We have an underleveled Ultra Beast on our team now though, so let's give it a shot. So our lead is Palossand and Howl leads with his Alolan Raichu. We take his Psychic pretty nicely and we fire off an Earth Power that just straight up knocks Raichu out. Now Howl brings out Crabominable. We've got to switch, so I go into Frostlass on the Ice Hammer, but thankfully he misses so we don't take any damage. We then can fire off a super effective Psychic which doesn't quite get the KO, and a Stone Edge brings us to only a Sliver. But the next turn we can deal with the Ice Crab and we take it out with another Psychic. Third up is a threat Incineroar. If he goes for a Z move, Blastful and Mimikyu can probably tank it. If he doesn't and he now goes for a Darkest Lariat, we will lose Blastful and Mimikyu Disguise Break, so it's a really tough call. So I choose to sacrifice Frostlass here and get off as much damage as I can with a Thunderbolt. You've once again been invaluable, Frostlass, thanks. So now we get a free swap into Mimikyu. We go for a Swords Dance to boost our attack, as Incineroar does in fact go for a Z move, Inferno Overdrive. Thankfully we take absolutely zero damage from it. Now we can outspeed and play rough and take care of Incineroar. We was always going to lose a Pokemon on him. I'm glad it was just one. Downside now is this brings out Tauros with Intimidate. I know it has Iron Head, so I need to swap to save Mimikyu. We swap into our Grass Ghost type Delmise, as the Iron Head doesn't do too much to us at all. We go for a Power Whip, but Tauros's Iron Head flinches us. RNG is back, not in my favour. He Iron Heads again and we Synthesis to recover all the HP. This time Tauros goes for a Zen Headbutt and he flinches us again, because of course he does. And then now he goes for a Zen Headbutt, which puts us low, but we connect a Power Whip, critical hitting him and putting an end to Tauros flinches. Now we have another problem, Noivern. It has Dark Pulse and can practically solo my whole team now, except Mimikyu, but we can't afford to swap in on an Air Slash. The Flying type move is more than likely coming, so I go into Palossand, and he does in fact Air Slash. There is zero way we live a Dark Pulse, so death number 9 is Palossand. Back to the earth you go, buddy. I now go into our Ultra Beast to try and get a little bit of damage off, but his Dark Pulse flinches us. How many times have we been hacked this run? This means our Ultra Beast gets to do nothing and falls to a Dark Pulse. This reminds me of the Regidrago scenario. Now with a tally of 10 deaths, we go into Mimikyu, who I should have just gone into right away. We take an Air Slash very well and play rough for the one-hit knockout. Finally, Leafeon. This shouldn't be a problem, right? We're at a pretty high HP, so I decide to stay in with Mimikyu. Leafeon attacks first, and Leaf Blade destroys us, and we lose another Ghost member to Howl. Well, now we have a weakened Delmise and a Decidueye left. Decidueye knows Brave Bird and is a Grass type, but we don't take a Leaf Blade well at all, and after we hit a Brave Bird for big damage, we take Recoil too. Howl full restores Leafeon as our Brave Bird once again does a huge chunk to him, putting us low. Now it's a roll to see if we survive a Leaf Blade, and thankfully we do on 11 HP, as we can finish him off with a Spirit Shackle, beating Howl by the skin of our teeth and with a hefty amount of losses. It's time to move on to the Switch games and our first champion of them. First up is Trace from Let's Go Pikachu. His Pokemon only have 3 moves, but we only have 3 Pokemon. But we have an absolute destroyer of his team in Alolan Marowak. So his lead is always Pidgeot, and we lead off with our Marowak. We have a great moveset to deal with his team, so Pidgeot Mega Evolves and we hit a Rock Slide, nearly getting the knockout. Luck finally goes in our favour though, and not the champions, and we flinch him. So Trace now just full restores him, but we bring him all the way back down. This seals Pidgeot's fate and we take him out unscratched with a Thunder Punch. Up next is Slowbro. Our Thunder Punch does a solid chunk to him as he hits a Surf. We take it pretty decently to nearly halfway. This means the next turn we can electrify our fist again and take down Slowbro with another Thunder Punch. Third is Jolteon, but it can't hurt us at all, and a Boomerang doesn't give him chance to. This animation is so cool by the way. And now Jolteon falls. Fourth is Vileplume. I fire off a Stab Flare Blitz which just erases him from the battlefield, and we take a good amount of recoil too. Now is his own Marowak. Our Boomerang isn't doing too much, it looks like roughly half, as he goes for the same move. We survive it though on only 33 HP. I now decide it's Marowak's time, and he wants to go out in a blaze of glory with Flare Blitz. But we survive the recoil too on only 4 HP. He wasn't ready to go yet then I guess. This leaves his last Pokemon Rapidash, but a Boomerang critical hit makes sure that Marowak doesn't fall to Trace and sweeps his whole team. I'm kinda happy with Marowak's performance. It's a nice easy battle after a lot of grueling tough ones. Let's move on to Sword and Shield. The champion for Sword and Shield is Leon. His team is pretty strong and we now have some strong Pokemon and even our own Dragapult. So his lead is Aegislash and we lead with Runebriggers. Why you ask? 2 words, Stealth and Rocks. Aegislash King Shield and we set up our Stealth Rocks to chip away at his team and hurt Charizard massively. The next turn we get hit by a Shadow Ball that does a great amount of damage, but he's now in his weaker stance, so one Shadow Ball destroys Aegislash. Now he's Dragapult and Aegislash got the special defense drop. I don't really have great switch-ins, so I let him fall willingly. I know he's not in the next games and he's done his job. Thanks for your service, Runebriggers. Now we go into our own Dragapult. We hit a Dragon Pulse, but we don't quite knock it out as it retaliates with a Shadow Ball, but we survive it and at a good HP too. So the next turn, Dragapult takes down Dragapult. Haxorus is next, and I don't have an Outrage or Earthquake switch in. I go for a Dragon Pulse after Stealth Rocks, expecting to kill, but it lives on literally a sliver and outrages Dragapult and takes him down. We're losing Pokemon at such a fast rate now. We send out Gengar, who's been with us from our first battle, to revenge knockout the Haxorus. Mr. Rime is next, but it's weak to Ghost, so a super effective Shadow Ball takes him out swiftly too. Now he's Inteleon. I don't want to risk losing Gengar yet, and Charizard is out after Inteleon, so I need to get the right Pokemon in. So I swap out into Poltegeist as he hits a Mud Shot, lowering our accuracy, but Cursed Body then disables it, so he can't use that move again. He now goes for a Tearful Look, reducing our special attack, as our Giga Drain still does great damage to him. He Tearful Looks us again, and our Giga Drain just about finishes him off. Now he's Charizard. It takes 50% immediately to Stealth Rocks thanks to Runebriggers' sacrifice. I stay in and get hit for a G-Max Wildfire, but we survive it and we hit a Dark Pulse. We take a little bit of chip damage, but now it's Poltergeist's turn to go down, so we can get a clean switch in. Our Pokemon are powerhouses offensively, but defensively they're not so great. So now we go into Rotom, we can Dynamax and hit a Max Lightning to finish off Charizard and beat Sword and Shield. Now it's time for Scarlet and Violet. Let's do it. The last champion is Jita for Generation 9, and now we have probably the most powerfulest team we've had this whole run, and I don't think her team's going to be a problem. I've decided to be a little bit underleveled here to make it slightly more challenging, and I'm not just going to sleep with Torch Song. So her lead is Espartha, and we lead off with Ceruledge. We hit a Night Slash to take Espartha to half, as her Lumina Crash does a solid amount to us, but it doesn't matter, and our Knight can take down the Ostrich with a final Night Slash. Next up is Avalugg. I know it has a high defense stat, but we have a unique fire move in Bitterblade. We actually do nearly half to him and heal up a little bit as Avalugg goes for an Earthquake. We tank it quite nicely, so the next turn we Bitterblade again, putting Avalugg in the red, but this is where the line ends for our Knight, and Avalugg takes down Ceruledge with a final Shake of the Earth. Now I go into Annihilate, Primate's evolution, and I love this design. We can finish off Avalugg with a Thunder Punch. So her next Pokemon is Go-Go, and we have great attack stats, so one super effective Gunk Shot destroys the goal. I could sweep a whole team now with Annihilate, but I want to give other Pokemon a chance. So I go into our Houndstone on King Gambit. It's a Dark and Steel type, so it matches up well versus us. Houndstone's Stomping Tantrum doesn't even do half though, and a Katal Cleave just annihilates Houndstone. At least you got off an attack, good dog. We go into the Fire Starter now, Skeldurge, and now a Torch Song makes super quick work of King Gambit and raises our special attack. The loser is out, so I swap into our Brambleghast. I go for a Pounce as I really like the animation, and we do roughly half of her HP and lower her speed, as an Ice Fang does a good chunk to us. The next turn we connect a Power Whip, destroying the fish and giving Brambleghast a knockout. Her last Pokemon is Glamora, and what better Pokemon to send in than the 1000th Pokemon, Goldengo. She terastallizes into a pure rock type, and Goldengo's makes it rain, and we take down Glamora in just one move, beating every single champion with only ghost types. So our total death count was a massive 16 for this run. That's crazy high. It was actually a lot tougher than I thought it would be, but as we used a lot of Pokemon, it wasn't too much of a struggle. I really enjoyed doing this Halloween special, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see next, be it a character or a solo Pokemon, let me know in the comments below. If you like the content, leave a like and subscribe, as there's so much more to come from me. As always, if you're still watching, I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.